Hi again everybody, it's Julian the drummer with a video which I thought I'd make this time on some of the hidden gems, some albums which for whatever reason didn't capture the public's imagination at the time, or just didn't get anywhere because of lack of promotion, or just the habits of the record buying public, lack of airplay, whatever it was. But these just slipped through the net, and I think are worth a mention and get need a should have a lot more credit than they actually got. So see what you think. Chosen 7 in all, and we're going to begin with a band that everybody does know, but this is an album of theirs which it did make the albums chart but didn't get very high, and it's just been, I think it's been neglected over the years. It came out in 1966, so this was the year when popular groups started to make albums, and of course we had Revolver, where we had Pet Sounds and Aftermath and Freak Out and things like that. But the band in question is the Hollies, and this is their 1966 album called For Certain Because. Like I say, it did make the sort of top 30 in the LP charts, but it doesn't seem to get any kind of recognition or mention along the lines of the great records that were released that year. Unusually for albums of that time, it did have a gatefold. The Hollies were of course hugely popular as a singles band. They'd already chalked up loads of hits. This was their first album after original bass player Eric Haydock had left the band and been replaced by Bernie Calvert. And this really does show them moving into albums territory in a big way. There's some very strong songs on here. I'll just go through it quickly. Side 1, What's Wrong with the Way I Live, Pay You Back with Interest, Tell Me to My Face, Clown, Suspicious Look in Your Eyes, It's You. And then on side 2, High Class, Peculiar Situation, What Went Wrong, Crusader, Don't Even Think About Changing, and finally the big hit single of that time, Stop Stop Stop. The Hollies were a great band, frankly, and there's still a lineup of them performing. I think this record particularly highlights the great guitar playing of Tony Hicks. I've often wondered why he never gets mentioned in the same light as Clapton, Beck, Page. Maybe it's because he wasn't partial to loud, blistering solos. He certainly did some great solos, as is demonstrated on here. And it also shows what a really good banjo player he was. Obviously, Stop, 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 he features heavily on that. What's Wrong with the Way I Live, there again. I really like his guitar playing on a track that's not on here, but the hit single Bus Stop, where he does that fantastic acoustic bit in the middle, and also I think he plays a bouzouki on it as well. Fantastic playing. And the Hollies overall, Alan Clark, what a fantastic singer, a great voice. Bobby Elliott, one of my favourite drummers, really punchy. And as I say, Bernie Calvert had joined the band here, really great bass playing, plays some piano as well. And Graham Nash, of course, great harmony vocalist, sings lead on a couple on here. and it shows what a great overall band they were. And I think their albums really deserve a lot more credit than they got. This one, I think, is their best 60s album. It's a nice one I've got here. It's on the original Parlophone. And I would certainly recommend this. If you've not got it or you've never heard it, then it will be worth going for. Not especially rare. Good condition copies are perhaps a little harder to come by, but you shouldn't have too much trouble and you shouldn't have to pay too much for this. So it's the Hollies for certain, because 1966. Right, next up we have an artist who I think is not very well known at all. In fact, he only made 4 albums in his lifetime. He was American, and he fits, I suppose, into that singer-songwriter bracket. This is his second album, and it came out in 1972. I'm talking about David Ackles, and this is his album American Gothic. And there he is with the classic American Gothic pose there on the back cover. This came out on Elektra, and I've got this one on the this is on the Butterfly label. I think it was just when that version of the Elektra label started. I think this should also have an inner. Sadly, it hasn't got one. It got lost over time. This is an album of varied texture and songwriting, and it really is fantastic. It's so enjoyable. You can immerse yourself in it. I suppose David Ackles, his most well-known song arguably would be Road to Cairo, which was recorded as the follow-up single to This Wheel's on Fire by Julie Driscoll and Brian Auger Trinity. It wasn't a hit. I think David Ackles himself recorded it under the title Route to Chicago. But this album is, as I say, it's a mixture of straightforward singer-songwriter material, light rock, and a lot of, I suppose, Brecht and Weill type of material. Americana, I suppose, if you want to use a modern term for it. We have on here American Gothic, Love's Enough, Ballad of the Ship of State, One Night Stand, Oh California, Another Friday Night, and then on side 2, Family Band, Midnight Carousel, Waiting for the Moving Van, Blues for Billy Whitecloud, and the epic closer, 10 minutes long, Montana Song. Now, David Ackles sings and plays piano. He's backed by a small group plus an orchestra. So with the songs that are more rooted in American history on here, there's orchestra with a lot of great sort of loud, dramatic extracts, and then some pauses, and it really adds to the atmosphere on here. And like I say, you can really immerse yourself in this. It was recorded in England, and it was produced by Bernie Taupin. Now, I think the link here is because David Ackles opened up an Elton John concert in America, so I think that's where the association began there. And Bernie Taupin came to Britain with David Ackles and produced this album for him. Like I say, the songs are so full of texture and feeling. He's got a very rich, smooth, soothing voice, and you can really believe every word that he's singing. So I would thoroughly recommend this. If you like singer-songwriter rock, then David Ackles, American Gothic, 1972, well worth checking out. It's not especially rare or expensive, and as a critic once said, I read that he wrote, if an album can just be valued on its music content alone, then this would be worth a great deal indeed. Right, the next one I picked out is something completely different. It's not by a particular band, it's not by a particular artist, it's not a film soundtrack. You may wonder why I've chosen this. Well, it's simply because of the song content and the quality that's contained therein. And it is from a TV show that was broadcast back in 1980, TV drama series, and it is this, Fox, the album. The TV show was called Fox, and it was about an East London family of bearing that surname, and it detailed the trials and tribulations of all of them, how their lives changed and the paths they took over a period of time. It's like a family saga, really, if you like, a modern day Forsyth saga. It was produced by Euston Films, who of course were famous for making things like The Sweeney, Special Branch, Minder, Widows, and it was created by a great dramatist and scriptwriter called Trevor Preston, and he collaborated on this with George Fenton. George Fenton wrote lots of great TV theme tunes, and of course went on to write some great film scores as well. And with this one, Trevor Preston wrote the lyrics, George Fenton wrote the music. I suppose George Fenton's famous TV themes include Out, Bergerac, several others. And on here, this album is basically a selection of songs which interspersed the dramatic sequences in the programme. It was quite unique for British television at the time because everything, or just about everything, had incidental music. So this is more a selection of songs which went to go with the storylines as to what was happening at the time. It was really innovative. We have on here the Fox theme, King Billy. Billy Fox was the head of the family, so that one's a kind of a harmonica led piano street happy-go-lucky East End song. Not quite strangers, not quite friends, a little bit more mellow there. Fathers and sons, foxes kill. The storyline here went along that one of the younger sons was an up-and-coming boxer, and unfortunately he had a fight and he knocked his opponent down, and he subsequently died, and he had to live with what he'd done. Empty Sun, Midnight Spider, Two Up for Trouble on opening up side 2. Now that shows there are elements of criminality in the script. Madam Manhattan, Of Course It Was Raining, New York. One of the sons decided to go and live in America, decided that once he got there it wasn't what he thought it was going to be, because he was too engrossed and too used to the East End of London. Car Park, that's a lament for better times. And remember, this was 1980, so still relevant. Yeah, we can all relate to that now. We can all wish for days when things were better, and then an extended Fox theme closes it all out. Now the musicians on here, they call themselves, I said earlier it's not by a particular band, but they call themselves the Old Pals Act. So we have here, we have George Fenton, as I mentioned before, on keyboards. Ray Russell, one of my favourite guitarists, he features on here, and he works a lot with George Fenton on TV themes over the years. Roy Babington, bass, very well known jazz bass player, played with Soft Machine and Ian Carr's Nucleus, among others. And Barry D'Souza, drums. I think he played on a lot of David Essex's records, loads and loads of session work he did over the years. George Fenton doing the arrangements. And like I say, this is a great album with some great songs. The vocalist is one Peter Blake. Now, Peter Blake was an actor, but he was also a singer. Really good voice. He's probably best known for his role as, do you remember a comedy show back in the 80s called Dear John, written by John Sullivan, who created, of course, Only Fools and Horses most famously. This was about a guy who was divorced and joined a one-to-one club for the divorced and separated. And Peter Blake played a character in that called Kirk St. Moritz. And he was a very outrageous character who dressed in a white suit, had a gold medallion, and he was passed himself off as a sort of a very flamboyant spy. Really made himself to be out this glamorous character, whereas in fact it was all bull, and he was just really this comically absurd person. He was just out to make out that he was somebody that he wasn't. But as I say, Peter Blake does a great job singing on here, and it's got some really powerful songs on here. Really great material. It was at a time when, do you remember at the end of programmes you'd have an announcement saying the theme tune to whatever it is now available on record at your local record store. Well, on this occasion, all the songs from the show were available on this album, and I thought it was good enough to go out and buy one myself. And I don't think it went anywhere in particular, sales wise, but it's certainly worth checking out if you can find one. I'll just quickly run through the actors that were in Fox as well. We had Peter Vaughan, Elizabeth Spriggs, Bernard Hill, Derek O'Connor, Larry Lamb, Eamon Boland and Ray Winston. So a lot of them were up and coming actors at the time, and of course went on to great careers. So there we are. So that's Fox, the album, 1980, and it came out on EMI, and we have an inner sleeve with all the lyrics of the songs, and there's the record. Right, next up is one of my other favourite guitarists, who again doesn't seem to get as much recognition as others. Very in-demand session musician, played on lots of records over the years, and he is Canadian, and he is Amos Garrett. And this is a 1982 album called Amos Behaving. I don't think this record came out in the UK. This is a Canadian pressing I've got here. It was released on the Stony Plains label, Canadian label, and Amos Garrett sings and plays guitars on it. He's probably best known for his great solo on Maria Moldova's 1974 hit Midnight at the Oasis. He was also part of Paul Butterfield's band Better Days in the early 70s. Like I say, he's done countless sessions as well. I could listen to his guitar playing all day because he's so distinctive, very tasty player, and this album really goes to demonstrate that. He's got a very deep, soulful voice, and this is an album of just great songs, quite blues tinged, bit of country in there as well, and it's a mixture of original material and songs written by other artists, some that he was associated with. So for example, side one we have I Can't Quit You, which is a Bobby Charles song, Baton Rouge, Some Cats Know, that's a Leiber and Stoller one, Stella Ain't Got No Brains, great track, New Orleans, which is one of the lesser known Hoagy Carmichael songs, side two, Little Sister, another Bobby Charles one, Ha Ha in the Daytime, that's a real bluesy one written by Percy Mayfield, who always wrote great songs. Cardiac Arrest, I think that's an original. Love Song of the Nile, that's an original. And Ima Choju instrumental to close it out. And we have Amos Garrett, guitars and vocals, David Bergin, harmonicas, Bodan Hisco, drums, percussion, Kit Johnson, bass, Colin Linden, guitar, with some supporting musicians as well, and the female vocal backing, the Honolulu Heartbreakers, Eileen Tobin, Marion Tobin, Mitchell Lewis. Fantastic record, this one. If you go on eBay or check out some specialist shops, you should be able to find this one for not too much, and it really is a great album to absorb yourself in. It says Amos Garrett, Amos Behavin', 1982. Now, I mentioned there that Bobby Charles wrote a couple of the songs on that Amos Garrett album. So my next choice for an unheralded gem is his album, Bobby Charles, from 1972. And this came out on Bearsville. And there is the record. Bearsville, I think, was owned by Albert Grossman up in Woodstock, New York, which I think was where this one was recorded. And again, bit of background, Bobby Charles came from New Orleans. He was really part of the pulse of the New Orleans music scene there, along with the likes of Dr. John, Professor Longhair, and Alan Toussaint. And this was like a comeback album for him. He began his recording career when he was very young, back in the 1950s. He was more known as a songwriter. His most famous composition, I guess, was See You Later Alligator, which he recorded himself when he was very young. But of course the big hit version was recorded by Bill Haley and the Comets. He also wrote Walking to New Orleans, which became a hit for Fats Domino. Another big hit he wrote was But I Do, which was a 1961 hit for Clarence Frogman Henry. All his chess recordings he made in the 50s were, you can get those now on a chess compilation. He did then go on to make quite a lot of singles in the early to middle 60s. But like I say, he made this album as a sort of return to recording. I think he was friends with the band because they feature on this amongst the supporting musicians. So we have Levon Helm, Rick Danko, Garth Hudson, Richard Manuel, in fact all of them except Robbie Robertson. We also have here the aforementioned Amos Garrett, Dr. John, Joe Simon, Billy Mundy, Harry Lakowski, Ben Keith, a lot of well-known session players on here. And this is a fantastic album. The songs on here are just great. We have Street People, Long Face, I Must Be in a Good Place Now, Save Me Jesus, He's Got All the Whiskey. Then on side 2, Small Town Talk, Let Yourself Go, Grow Too Old. I think that was originally written back in the 50s and Fats Domino recorded it. I'm That Way, and Tennessee Blues. Now, I first came across Bobby Charles in the 1980s when I was playing in London, and a friend introduced me to him. I saw a couple of bands and they played a couple of his songs, I'm That Way and Tennessee Blues, and they announced these are by Bobby Charles, and wow, who's Bobby Charles? And somebody said, oh, he's from New Orleans, and he's wrote lots of great songs, but he recorded those particular ones on this album. And he showed me this album, and I borrowed it, and I thought, oh, this is fantastic. So I went out and bought one, and it really is one of my favourite albums of all time. It's kind of got a swampy, bluesy feel to it, elements of country, I guess. It's very loose, quite rough in places. It sounds as though it was recorded in a day, and I think what happened was that all the musicians got in the studio and Bobby Charles just said, right, let's just do it, and they did it by the sounds of it in one or perhaps 2 takes, and that's what makes it a really good listen. Some albums work like that. So yeah, I would thoroughly recommend this. If you like bluesy, swamp flavoured rock, then I would certainly check this one out. It's not all that rare. Should be able to find it easily enough. Bobby Charles, 1972. Next up, going a little more up to date, a guitar legend, I guess. He influenced a lot of people. I suppose some could describe him perhaps as the American Burt Weedon. But he was the one and only Chet Atkins. And in 1985 he made this album, Stay Tuned, with a kind of who's who roster of guitar players of the day. So we have Chet Atkins with George Benson, Larry Carlton, Earl Klugh, Mark Knopfler, Steve Lukather, Brent Mason, Dean Parks and Paul Yandell. That's just the guitar lineup. We have as well drums, Mark Hammond, Larry London and Jeff Porcaro. Percussion, Paulino da Costa, Terry McMillan. And keyboards, Daryl Dibker, Randy Goodrum, Clayton Ivey, Shane Keister. And violin and fiddle, Mark O'Connor. This is an album where Chet Atkins is there. He's there sort of picking away on all the songs in the background, and the others he gives the star turns to, so you can hear them feature on each track. So we have side 1, Sunrise, that features George Benson. Please Stay Tuned, Steve Lukather's on there. Quiet Eyes, Dean Parks. A Mouse in the House, I think is Larry Carlton. Some Leather and Lace, Mark Knopfler featuring there. Side 2, The Cricket Ballet, that's Earl Klugh featuring there on his nylon acoustic. Cosmic Square Dance, I think that's Knopfler again. The Boot and the Stone, Tap Room, If I Should Lose You. Um, this is just a great album. Every track is different. There's some jazz funk on here. There's some nice slow melodic ballads. Some upbeat rock material. And it's all really well produced by... who is it produced? Produced by David Hungate. And one or two produced by George Benson and Chet Atkins. And it really is a fantastic album. Made in, as I say, 1985, at the time where I think many record buyers were moving over to CD. It's got that same sound as what was the Dire Straits one, Brothers in Arms. So that was considered by many to be the CD album that everybody went out and bought, or when they heard it, they decided, oh yeah, CDs are the way forward. It took me a couple more years to convert to CDs then, but I bought this on vinyl, and it's on CBS. The Sunburst label of the time. I'm sure you can get this on CD, but the vinyl one sounds equally good. And yeah, this is a cracking album which didn't seem to get much play at the time. I think afterwards, a year later, maybe 2 years later, Chet Atkins and Mark Knopfler did an album together, just the two of them. I think that's better known than this one. But if you see it around, do get it. Stay tuned. Chet Atkins. Right, finally, we're going back to 1971. Now, 1971 was the year of many great albums. Hunky Dory, Aqua Lung, of course the big singer-songwriters were prominent then, the Carole King Tapestry, the Cat Stevens, what was it, Tifa the Tillerman, and what was the other one, Teaser and the Firecat, and Led Zepp 4, all those great albums came out that year. Probably swamping this one, which I think is an absolutely fantastic album. And it's this one, Brian Auger's Oblivion Express, A Better Land. This quite intriguing gatefold cover. Now, Brian Auger formed the Oblivion Express after the breakup of the Trinity. They did one album for RCA before this one, which came out on Polydor. And it's a bit different because whereas a lot of Brian Auger albums feature very heavily his Hammond organ and are quite funky, this one is more just a collection of really good quality songs, which are kind of, he plays electric piano and acoustic piano as well as Hammond, and they're nicely balanced with guitar. I'll tell you who's on it first of all. We have Brian Auger, as I say, organ and pianos. Jim Mullen, one of my favourite guitarists, electric and acoustic guitars and vocals. Barry Dean, bass and vocals. And Robbie McIntosh, drums, who went on to join the Average White Band and sadly and tragically died in awful circumstances. But on here it's just a four-piece band, and this singing, because he didn't have a powerful vocalist like Julie Driscoll at this time. So what they do is they sing virtually all the songs in harmony, all three of them, Brian Auger, Jim Mullen and Barry Dean, and it works. It really does, and the melodies are very strong on here. There are some jazzy elements to it, but it's very melodic. We have side one, Dawn of Another Day, Mary's Wedding, a traditional Scottish one. Billy Connolly made a great sort of a feature of in one of his acts. Trouble, Wound of the Seasons, and side two, Fill Your Head with Laughter, On Thinking It Over, Tomorrow City, All the Time There Is, and the title track, A Better Land. If you want an album of just great songs, great melodies, and fine playing, you cannot go wrong with this, and it should have got far more acclaim and recognition than it did when it came out. I would say it's my favourite Brian Auger album. Quite easy to get hold of, I would think. Record fairs, eBay, check it out. It really is a great album. So that's Brian Auger and the Oblivion Express, A Better Land, 1971. There we are, that's it. 7 albums which I think slipped through the net. If you know of them, if you've got them and you like them, then please do leave some comments. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe if you do like the stuff that I'm talking about. If you've got, please click that like and subscribe button. Leave comments, please, on the records that are featured. If you've got any of your own that you feel deserve more recognition than they did. In the meantime, hope you're well. Do stay safe. I'll talk to you next time I get some more records and feature them on a video. Look after yourselves, and I will speak to you again soon. Until then, bye for now.